And I really refer to that as the purging. For me, it's a purging of the roar. It might be something else for you. I just want to say welcome. My name is Jill, and I've been doing a daily journaling practice for more than 40 years. I wanted to take some time and make some videos about why I think it's so important, both for our physical, mental, emotional health, wellness, and resiliency, which to me is the most important one. It's also a part of a powerful spiritual practice. But I'm also a licensed therapist, and it's the #1 tool I recommend or used to people that I worked with. So I'm going to ask you to just pause. We're going to take a deep breath. We're going to focus and begin. I think it's time to take back your story. Analog before digital, private before public, write before speaking, read before acting, while creating a story for one. It's time to bring your focus back home and find your true story within.
Without comments, criticism, clicks, likes, or unwanted feedback.
So I wanted to make this introductory video on one of the most obvious things there is about journaling. And the reason why I'm making this painfully obvious and simple video is that in a world of way too much information, everybody has been desperately trying to find their niche and their way as the way to get things done. Now, I started journaling long before anybody told me that it was a good thing. It was actually something that my 6th grade teacher initiated as a project. I'm going to share a video on that because I still have it somewhere. I haven't read it in a long time. It should make for interesting reading. But it's something that I stuck with. And for those of you who followed me for a while on YouTube, you've seen my purge videos. I've had 2-3 major purging moments where I burned all of my journals. I actually read most of the older ones before I did that first purge. I'll talk about that later. But there's a reason why I burned them, and I'm going to cover that in the third thing why this is so important. So I don't want to tell you how to journal. I don't want to tell you why to journal. I only just want to encourage you to just begin. And I think one of the problems by making it specific techniques, fancy equipment, find a special place, create a sacred moment, develop a ritual, we don't get started because it feels super complicated. And there's lots and lots of different reasons to journal, and I'll be covering some of those in more specific types of videos. But the most powerful thing you can do is just start. And when we do something every day, it seems to have the best effect for us. I'm a great believer in the 24-hour day as the way to truly create change within your life and also to manage it, especially for people like me who have a little trouble with focus. So there's only 3 things that you need to get started. It's less than $3. If you know somebody, this is the best gift you can give them. Let's begin. So let's start in the most obvious way. This is just your $2 spiral notebook, 180 pages. You can get them wide or college ruled. If you have nice, clean writing, college rules will get you much more pages. If you're like me and you need the extra space to lose it, wide ruled is the way to go. But the reason why I really like these cheap spiral notebooks is 1, nothing falls out. 2, you can write. I don't want you to see what I wrote. You can write and you can turn it over, so it makes it much easier than a binder, and it's not like a loose piece of paper, which quite often will float away. And so I recommend, So the reason I recommend doing it that way, and there's lots of reasons why not to use a spiral binder, but it's super cheap. You can go to any store and pick up a starter, and you can just begin. Because what I'm going to talk about in a minute will tell you why You don't want one of those nice, pretty ones. Pencil, pen. I was in Walmart the other day, and I think there was like 8 or 12 pencils for less than $1. So you cannot beat a pencil for a cheap way to get started. And most dollar stores have pens that are, $2, $3, $4 for $1. They just don't seem to have much ink in them anymore. I'm switching to pencils because they seem to last quite a bit longer. But it doesn't matter what you write with. All that you're doing is writing. And so just get something that you will use. If you push really hard, you might not want to do a pencil because you'll break that little tip. But I'm actually going to go over this in a lot more detail on another day because it's been a really interesting journey about what to use. But super cheap. Cheap pencil, cheap pen, very easy to get started. Now, right now, you can see it's just a blank page. And the reason, can you read that? Do you want to sneak and peek into my journal? Privacy, no looking. There's absolutely no way you will ever be able to fully utilize the journaling experience if anybody ever is going to read what you wrote. Now, will somebody read it when you're dead? Maybe, but highly unlikely, because the true power of the journal becomes lost if anybody has any way to see what you've written. Now, if you're like me and you live alone, not a problem. If you don't live alone, it's something that you'll need to think about, because people will tell you that they're not going to sneak a peek, but they might be sneaking a peek. You might even want to use a decoy journal, which is different than a diary. So maybe you leave a decoy diary and then you put your little journal someplace else. But the real power of journaling is in the unedited process, right? Nobody knows what you're going to say. Nobody knows what you're thinking. Nobody knows what you've done. There's no evidence except for what's on that written page, which is why I burned mine. The first, 10 or 15 years were like, what was I thinking? I didn't even write down details. I was referring to people that I didn't even know who they were anymore. And mostly they were really depressing. I had a very rough go for most of my life. There was a lot going on in my head that had I not had the power of the journaling, it really would have been, I don't know. There's something very powerful about the process itself. And I'll be covering those types of things also. But I wanted to just get us started. Cheap paper spiral notebook, cheap pen and pencil, 100% privacy. Because if you don't have those things, it's really hard to get started. And I am a 100% advocate for the physical writing, not dictating, not doing it online. The minute you go online, it's no longer private. If you're putting it on the cloud, it's really not private. And it doesn't have the same physiological effect. You're not doing what the primary purpose of the journal process actually is. And that's getting all the chaos out. It's stopping the cycling, the looping, the overwhelm, the power of the energetic motion that's swirling within you, or not, we're all different, it's a way to get it out. And I really refer to that as the purging. For me, it's a purging of the roar. It might be something else for you. It's 3 simple steps to get started. Anyone can do it, anywhere, anytime. You don't even need very much light. Because if you're living off grid, that's a real thing. So that's going to wrap it up. I just wanted to cover that. I just wanted to get started. And I wanted to pick one day a week where I'm going to post. It was going to be today, Tuesday. It's kind of not looking like that will happen. So I'll get back to you on what the day is. But for now, we're going to take a deep breath. And my friends, check the links below. For more, we'll see you next time.